Sedona, Arizona, and its paranormal centerpiece, Bradshaw Ranch, is one of the most beautiful and mysterious places on the planet. A place of high strangeness. A place where vortexes and interdimensional openings have been occurring for centuries. The place recognized as one of the great paranormal hotspots in the world.
A hotspot is an area known for millennia. So even the Native Americans living here going back thousands of years said they had regular contact with the star beings. In fact, they call them their star ancestors.
Star ancestors depicted on Sedona's 1,200-year-old secret Native American rock art panels.
The other things I'm going to show you are really going to make you question what the people saw down here.
Including a giant Bigfoot track and an alien spacecraft. UAPs. You're almost guaranteed to see any clear night over the dark sky city of Sedona and neighboring Bradshaw Ranch.
And this is one of those plasma craft. I shot pictures of this thing for 20 more minutes. And it was going from a big orb of light. In one picture, it almost looks like in the shape of an angel. It was changing shapes as I was shooting photos.
However, it wasn't until the 90s that Linda Bradshaw and Tom Dongo began documenting the paranormal occurrences on the ranch.
My notoriety is the Bradshaw Ranch, the 4.5 years I spent on the Bradshaw Ranch. So we had things around us we could feel that we couldn't see. We felt they could see us, but we couldn't see them.
Today, there is a growing understanding that there's something about the underlying geology of Sedona and Bradshaw Ranch that facilitates the opening of portals.
If you look at all the red rock, that's Fe2O3, iron oxide. Iron oxide is inductive electronically, and then you have the quartz, which is buried underneath here. It's a huge layer of it. So here you have a combination of the quartz emitting electricity, electrical energy, and you have the red iron oxide adding inductance to it. This whole area is like a big radio transmitter or a radio receiver.
Over a period of 6 months, we were able to pull together a research team of paranormal investigators, psychics, and scientists to see if we could capture on film the reality responsible for the high strangeness occurring on Bradshaw Ranch. What we discovered was evidence that we're not alone in the universe.
There's a creature dancing above you, Dan.
There's a huge cold spot directly in front of us.
Really?
Oh yeah, it almost looks like eyeball shaped. Oh, whoa. There's a hot circle that's jumping position within that cold spot.
What we also filmed points to the possibility of a new physics and unlimited energy.
Everything in it is going to seem shifted from our point of view. You're going to get temporal anomalies and things like this. So it's not surprising that within that area, you're going to have something that you can see, did you say a thermal camera, bouncing around in there? I mean, you're going to have these little charge. That is definitely an indication that you've got these charge clusters operating there.
What's under there? Camera?
It's a sensor.
And the ranch was purchased by the Energy Department of the U.S. government in 2003, a clear indication that there are people and institutions that know about and want the technology occurring on Bradshaw Ranch.
That's a sensor pointed
Been there a while.
At the old west part of town.
Definitely been there.
And there are 3 of them on these 3 trees. They all triangulate down to the old west part. They're all hard lined in. And there's a solar panel to power them all.
Join us on our shocking investigation of Bradshaw Ranch. As we walked towards the ranch for the first time, there was a sense of excitement, a sense of crossing a threshold, a sense of entering a world of unusual possibilities, and even a little sense of fear. Our aim was to see if we could shed light on one of the biggest questions in paranormal research. Are the entities, beings, creatures, UAPs, and other anomalous phenomena interdimensional? Coming from another reality? Or ETs, extraterrestrials that are part of our own universe? Or something entirely different? Perhaps the mysterious space of our mind and consciousness. Bradshaw Ranch is surrounded by towering red cliffs to the west of Sedona, Arizona, at the junction of Hartwell Canyon and Loy Canyon. Today, Bradshaw Ranch is an abandoned homestead and former movie set. The focal point of high strangeness on the ranch is formed by a triangle of the windmill to the north, the original adobe homestead to the east, and to the south, the ranch house, a building that was the living quarters of the Bradshaws and the makeshift movie set as well. The property spreads out to the west with many outbuildings and old corrals. The recent ranch history began when in 1960, Bob Bradshaw purchased a 140-acre parcel of land out at a place that was then known as Bitter Creek. This ranch and its old adobe house would go on to become a popular Hollywood location to shoot Western movies, such as the 1965 Elvis Presley film, Stay Away Joe. In the 1990s, Bob Bradshaw's son, John Bradshaw, turned the land into a more functional, actual working ranch, and it also became popular as a recreation spot for tourists. Melinda Leslie is a psychic and UAP researcher.
Keep staring at that area of the sky to see if it happens again. A lot of times we get things jumping around.
She also operates Sedona UFO Tour and is very familiar with Bradshaw Ranch and its high strangeness history.
The last member of the family to be on the property long term was Linda Bradshaw. And she was experiencing this portal opening up. She had veteran researcher Tom Dongo out there to document it, film it, photograph it, you know, etc. And she herself also did. Eventually they wrote a book together about it, and then they've also both written books independent of each other about it. But she was living there, so she was able to see it all the time because she was there. And yes, there was this portal and very interesting photos to other places in time.
Then in May 2003, the mystery was deepened and conspiracy theories were spawned when the U.S. government suddenly, and without explanation, purchased the ranch and quickly had it locked off from the rest of the world. Locals claim that there were frequently military personnel seen around the area. Tom Dongo thought it strange that the Energy Department would do environmental research on this piece of property. So before we traveled to the ranch, it was important to do an interview with Tom Dongo, who was the primary paranormal investigator of the property. Tom believes his time on the ranch with Linda Bradshaw changed both of them in a fundamental way.
The whole Bradshaw Ranch thing was just a phenomenon, and I've said it on countless interviews I've done that Linda Bradshaw and I were probably exposed to something that probably no other person on this planet has has experienced or seen or exposed to. And my question is, I have very strange abilities, very strange. In fact, the University of California, Berkeley wanted me to come there for 2 weeks and test me, examine me to see, why I'm like that. But I think being in contact with these beings walking by us, some nights it was like being in Times Square in New York. I mean, you could feel these things walking around. And they, so did what they were rub off on Linda and I? That's what I question, because I've developed, I can see into a human body like an X-ray machine. I can go all through a human body. I've done this hundreds of times, even with medical doctors, and I'm rarely wrong about what I see. So, I developed that ability and some other psychic abilities.
Unable to travel to the ranch with us, Tom put us in touch with the man he's been mentoring to carry on his research at the ranch. This is Jürgen Hess, who goes by the name Hoodoo Tall. We will simply call him HT. HT agreed to join our team for the filming at the Bradshaw Ranch. With intimate knowledge of the ranch, HT would be our guide and our eyes on the property when we were not around. We met HT to make plans for conducting the investigation.
So the reason I started coming out here more often and ended up moving out here is because even before I had seen a UFO, I was really good friends with a guy named John Lear before he passed away recently, and he was one of the guys that kind of started the UFO Area 51 conspiracy and stuff. So I'd go sit with him at his house and we'd talk for hours, and he would show me all his photos and all the stories and talk to me about Bob Lazar and all that stuff. And I got to the point where I was pretty sure UFOs were real. There's got to be a place or places where I can go, and these things should be everywhere, like a spaceport. And so when I started coming out here, I was like, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's more along the lines of that's tech that belongs to higher level beings. Maybe they're humanoid, maybe they're not, maybe it's all of the above.
So what's our plan for going out there today?
So there's a set of really 4 good footprints that I found probably a month ago that I think are actually still there. Because this thing went through some real heavy ground, and this thing was really heavy. So I was there about a week ago and I saw that they were still there. So I can probably show you those. I definitely want to take you around the ranch house and show you like where the old movie set is and stuff like that.
Later that day, we met HT at the ranch, and he took Alan McGargle to go find the promised unusual footprints. Bradshaw Ranch is notorious for all manner of strange footprints, especially footprints associated with Bigfoot. But also, some investigators claim there are footprints that might have been made by dinosaurs or other inexplicable creatures.
Whatever walked through here had 2 toes. Look, like 2 toenails. These footprints have 2 toes.
Finally, they reach what HT believes are large Bigfoot prints.
You guys are gonna like this. So come up over here. This thing stepped 1, 2, 3, 4. And what it's doing, when it steps, it weighs so much that it's pushing all these rocks down, and then when it rains, it fills in with silt. So think how...
Like most Bigfoot prints, they show up out of nowhere, and after a few steps, they just disappear. Since the 90s, there have been many reports of a resident Bigfoot on Bradshaw Ranch.
Big girl, they call her. They call her Big Girl because she has breasts, or that she kind of looks like she does. I have not seen her, but I know quite a few people that have.
I think that Bigfeet are aliens. I don't think they're an animal that's lived here for 10,000 years or whatever. I think they are aliens.
The possibility of the presence of Bigfoot was of particular interest to our lead investigator, Alan McGargle. since he'd been having felt contact experiences with something he called Bigfoot. Felt experiences that occurred at 5 of the paranormal hotspots we investigated for our series, The Paranormal Highway. He would soon feel it again.
Let's wait for those guys.
Speaking of feelings, as we entered the triangle, there was a sense of strangeness and unease, but not evil.
Does anything bad have been known to happen here?
No, that's why I still come alone.
Even like before when people lived here? Did
Yeah,
people die
no, I
here or
asked Tom
anything?
Dongo, were there any even animal mutilations or anything? He said, nope, never. There's nothing ever hurt here.
Doesn't necessarily feel good though.
Feels weird, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I felt the first 5, 6 times I came here. It felt bizarre.
Yeah.
And then I finally adjusted to it. Now it feels welcoming to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
We decided to do a quick walkthrough of the 2 main buildings, starting with the original adobe homestead. Built in 1902, the adobe homestead is similar to many of the pioneer cabins built in the Wild West. 3 or 4 rooms, no plumbing, and remnants indicating that electricity had once been brought to the building.
It doesn't feel too bad now, but I kind of feel like it will.
Oh, at night it feels different.
Yeah.
Now it looked like thousands of other buildings abandoned in the ghost towns of the West. Remnants of the old life scattered everywhere. Broken windows looked out on the property. And of course, there was strange graffiti left behind by past visitors. The place felt like we were on the edge of the anomalous, a feeling that would prove to be true the upcoming night.
I get weird sounds coming out of here at night. I've heard sounds in here that sound like there's a big animal like a cow like in here, but I mean there's no cow in here, but yeah, very bizarre at night. We'll see.
Next, we went to the ranch house. A large building with full amenities. Which served both as the living quarters for the Bradshaws, the base camp for film crews, and, for a time, a restaurant. There was a large central room that often functioned as a set for interior bar scenes. Unlike the adobe house, there are many signs of recent use. Less junk.
Big place, it's got a weird layout though.
I think it used to be a restaurant too, like for all the people that were visiting the ranch.
Oh, okay.
For both buildings, there were no unusual electromagnetic readings.
Yeah.
The feeling inside was largely inviting.
Look at the Christmas lights all hung up.
But like the adobe building, there was ample graffiti left behind by previous visitors. The time had come to do our first paranormal investigation at the infamous windmill, the third structure enclosing the high strangeness triangle. Rusted in place, the blades are said to, on occasion, inexplicably, start turning.
I'll tell you a story about that windmill. All the time I spent on the Bradshaw Ranch, I never went up to the windmill. But there's something about that that's really, really, really paranormal about that windmill.
As far as we knew, nobody had used paranormal equipment to make contact and interact with whatever anomalous phenomena have been showing up on the ranch. Recently, using multiple paranormal detection devices, we had success making contact with a purported ghost in the catacombs of Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Here, a REM pod and a K2 EMF meter synced up and responded to Alan.
There you go. Hello. My name is Alan. Yeah. Never have I had that before.
What are you feeling? Anything?
It's like right here, yeah. No, it's like right here. It's in front of me. I'm standing face to face with it. Not right here. It's down lower now.
But at the windmill, Alan took some preliminary electromagnetic and magnetic-based readings in the enclosed area that protected the covered well shaft.
I got radio frequency here.
We were most anxious to see what would happen on Bradshaw Ranch when we introduced technology.
Get some baseline here. Okay.
As witnessed many times on Skinwalker Ranch, the introduction of technology often led to negative consequences and demonstration of the ranch's power over the researchers' equipment. We decided to set up the spirit box and REM pod to see if anything wanted to communicate or interact. A REM pod puts out a weak radio signal, a signal producing a field that some entity, undetectable to the naked eye, can disrupt and respond to in an intelligent way. The ranch didn't take long before there was an interaction between the REM pod and the spirit box. Then, the most important response.
Are there any beings out here that can see us?
The REM pod's gone all the way up.
Indicating that it can see us, like Tom Dongo described, but we could not see it.
We had things around us we could feel that we couldn't see. We felt they could see us, but we couldn't see them.
Definitely got to try this again at night.
Oh yeah.
I mean, for sure.
Here and in both
in the house,
in the both of those
yeah.
houses.
Yeah. That was some good.
I call that a good warm-up.
That was good on the REM pod. Yeah, it was responding well.
Perhaps our nighttime investigations would bring us closer to understanding the mysterious occurrences on Bradshaw Ranch. Relieved and excited that the ranch seemed to accept our presence and our use of technology to make contact, we did a walking tour of the western half of the property. Completing the tour, we decided to come back after dinner for nighttime investigations. When we returned to the ranch, we were all feeling slightly disoriented. We just experienced what many call a time slip. Driving from Sedona, there is a turn onto a gravel road that then takes approximately half an hour to reach the ranch. It's a straight shot, and HT has driven it many times. However, at one point, we found ourselves lost for a considerable chunk of time, seeing strange places and traveling on unknown gravel roads. We all knew that something wasn't right. Eventually, we found ourselves back on the correct road and, remarkably, reaching the ranch at the time as if we had not gotten lost. We knew this was impossible. Was this preparation for what was to come? We decided to do the first investigation in the large central room of the ranch house. Alan set up our conventional paranormal detecting devices used mainly to connect with spirits who have passed. HT attempted to make contact first with Bob Bradshaw and then Linda Bradshaw, who had died a few years earlier.
Hey, Mr. Bradshaw, we came to visit with you. I'd like to try and take care of your wrench still, make sure it doesn't get any worse. And try and care for some of those beings out here. Do you still walk around in here? Are you in here with us? What about you, Linda? Linda Bradshaw, I know you loved it here.
Although we got certain voices coming from the spirit box, they did not seem to be interacting with us. Then Alan felt the presence of something. Something that would turn out to reflect the portal phenomenon the ranch is known for.
You're right here, it's pretty cold. I know you're right here. Holy shit. Are you getting this cold? It's right here, it's super cold. I know you're right here, I saw you on the SLS. Who is this? Are you affiliated with the ranch?
Dang, that's full tilt, bro.
Who is this? Can you use... Oh my god.
Yes, I can.
Can you feel this? With your hand? No, feel the air right here.
Oh, wow. You can actually feel the difference in temperature there. Can you tell us what we can call you?
It's like right in the friggin' door. Alright, I see you. Oh, it's on top of the friggin' sink. Look at that. Can you film my screen, Joel?
Yeah.
Look at this thing.
Dr. Simeon Hine teaches remote viewing and has been studying the relationship between plasma, dark matter, and the fifth state of matter, and interdimensional occurrences. Alan described for him what happened in the ranch house.
I was able to identify a figure in the room that we could not see. I approached that figure with an EMF meter, and I put my hand out, and the first thing I noticed was my hand was ice cold in this area where I could see the figure. And the second thing I noticed was the EMF reading was off the charts. And then I was able to have someone else come over and put their hand in there.
Oh, wow. You can actually feel the difference in temperature there.
We could feel a vortex, a column of cold air.
So, on this continuum of coherent matter, which even Lockheed Martin says that's what they want their patent in. What is the patent for? Create cloaking, invisibility, and teleportation, and directed energy weapons. Okay, so you got the whole idea. So this is all there. There has to be a realm of life and matter beyond the ordinary type of matter that we're talking about, non-ordinary matter, which would be in the same space with us, but it's not interacting with light and electromagnetics in the way that we're used to. So it's going to be invisible life forms around us. And I think this is probably the most shocking part of all of this, which is what the conclusion is, whether I like it or not, is that we're surrounded by life forms that you can't see. And the name that the intelligence agencies gave to this is
dark mode plasma or stealth plasma.
Dr. Hines' explanation would account for why the government and the owner of Skinwalker Ranch, Brandon Fugel, tried to buy Bradshaw Ranch. Alien technology. Before moving to the adobe house, Alan demonstrated how the SLS app works.
Here, come over here for a second, Joel. Stay right there. Joel, come over this way. I just wanted to show you what this does. So if you shine this around, if it detects a person, it locks on and it can tell where his eyes are and his nose and like, see? Yeah. So it locks onto a person. So when you point it in a dark corner, it shouldn't lock on a person.
On their way to the adobe building for the next investigation, Alan sensed something. Dead silence like extreme cold is often an indication of something paranormal or interdimensional occurring.
Is it always super quiet like this?
No. You can usually hear.
I mean, there's nothing.
Now enhanced and zoomed in, note the UAP that showed up during the dead silence.
Is it always super quiet like this?
No. You can usually hear.
I mean, there's nothing.
There's no birds.
We noticed in post-production a few seconds earlier, the same flickering UAP was captured. It appears to be off in the distance, moving slightly. This kind of light phenomena would play a big role in what was to come. The Sedona area, along with Bradshaw Ranch, is known for sightings of UAPs and unusual light phenomena, including orbs. Every clear night, Melinda Leslie takes groups of people out with her military-grade night vision scopes and points out unusual activity in the sky.
So I'm looking through these. I think they're Gen 3 night goggles of the sky.
Okay, good.
A couple people spotted a craft, so they highlighted with a laser, and when I looked at it,
flash us, please.
They flashed it with the laser, and
Flash me, please.
the craft got very bright, like a ball of light, and then it went, and then it dimmed,
Give me a
and then they
please.
flashed
Now,
it a couple
we
more
flashed
times,
No, that means your goggles.
and it like
Back.
it did like a
But, you know, you
double
saw it
pulse
happen, so
flash,
you know it does.
and it did that a couple times when
Give
we
me
hit
a
it with the
flash,
laser.
please.
So I don't know, pretty cool.
In fact, Tom Dongle and Linda Bradshaw, in their book, Merging Dimensions, The Opening Portals of Sedona, describe their encounters with orbs and unusual light phenomena on the property, some of which they captured in photographs.
In fact, the reason I went to the Bradshaw Ranch was they asked me to come out, and it was orbs. She was getting photographs of orbs. And yes, they are a lot, they're living creatures, orbs. Not all of them. Some of them are just something inorganic or whatever. No, they're not dust.
And then there's HT's spectacular series of photographs capturing an orange orb over the ranch.
And this is one of those plasma craft. I shot pictures of this thing for 20 more minutes. And it was going from a big orb of light. In one picture, it almost looks like in the shape of an angel. It was changing shapes as I was shooting photos.
Then there was the most extraordinary explosion of orbs that was recorded by our trail camera. Note the grass in the foreground is perfectly still. Once inside the adobe building, we began to set up our paranormal detection equipment. Like in the ranch house, interaction between Alan and HT and the equipment didn't seem to be working. But in post-production, a response appeared to be coming from moving light phenomena, or what Tom and Linda would call orbs. A phenomena identical to what we captured on our trail cam. These light phenomena, or orbs, showed up after Alan asked the question, is there anyone here that can see us?
Is anyone in here with us that can see us? Hear us?
At first, their movements appeared to be random, but then they started heading straight for Alan. Notice the bright flickering orb.
Can you talk to us now?
Here's the big one, heading towards Alan's head in detail, blown up. Notice how this orb appears to go right into Alan. Alan sees something out the window, something he has wanted to see for years.
And then I looked out the window. There was a black figure crouched down. And I blinked a couple times to see if I was really seeing that. And when my eyes refocused again, it was closer. And then it was left, right, and then it just was gone. And then I tried to do that again. I tried to get my eyes adjusted to the light and look outside again, and I can't see that again. It was not a trick of my eyes. So where that dark shadow, I don't know what it is.
That's like a water tank.
Yeah, so the water tank's on the left. There's a tree to the right that I can't quite see from here because the windows are separate.
In post-production, we were able to see at a particular point during describing what Alan saw out the window, a self-illuminating light shows up outside of an adjacent window.
It wasn't a Bigfoot, it was like a shadow. And then like I said, I blinked and it was closer and a little bit different shape, and I don't know if it stood up a little bit or crouched down more. And then as I stared at it, it went like it flashed, and it was here, then it flashed, and it was here, it was flashed, it was here, and it was gone.
It's a little
like it was almost like it wasn't a fluid motion. It was almost like it wasn't here and then it was.
See how the light syncs up with his description.
It flashed. And it was here, and it flashed, and it was here, it was flashed, it was here, and it was gone.
Clearly, an aware intelligence.
It wasn't a fluid motion.
Later, H.T. showed Alan a picture he took of a Bigfoot outside of the ranch house. Big gal? This is perhaps the best image of a Bigfoot since the Patterson-Gimlin film. Alan described his reaction to seeing the picture.
So after I described what the creature looked like to Jurgen, he pulled out his phone and he showed me a picture of what he had captured. And as soon as I saw it, I recognized that was the creature. The thing that really struck me was the shape, because what I saw was very, very boxy, almost like its head was in front of it. And that's exactly what it looks like in Jurgen's picture. So I was in disbelief. That was the moment that I realized that I had seen Bigfoot. It wasn't until I saw that photo that it all really clicked.
Were the moving light anomalies that we filmed in the Adobe building, as many critics will say, merely out of focus dust particles in front of the camera? Or was the ranch using the cold spot in the ranch house?
Oh, wow.
The flashing light on the horizon, the light in the window, the moving light phenomenon, and Alan seeing the Bigfoot, using them to study us to see if we were smart enough to see a pattern that would bring us back to the ranch. In any case, walking back to the car, we immediately made plans to return to the ranch in the spring with new equipment and more investigators. We were determined to experience fully what the ranch had to offer in terms of portals, alien life forms, and new scientific discoveries. In preparation for our spring return to Bradshaw Ranch, we purchased the professional Kinect SLS camera. During our investigation of the ranch house, we used the Ghost Tube app on our phones to capture possible alien entities. The Kinect SLS camera would allow us to record in full HD any hidden alien life forms that might show up. Using an Xbox 360 module developed by Microsoft, the Kinect SLS camera has an infrared light projector with a monochrome CMOS sensor that shows everything as dots arranged in 3D formation. These infrared dots allow the camera to show depth and detail. The IR sees an entity by recognizing a human-like shape based on joints and movements and displays it on the screen. We also bought a small portable Tesla coil. Tesla coils have long been associated with the opening of portals. Tesla coils add energy to the environment by producing both a plasma ball of charged particles, known as the fourth state of matter, and by generating a magnetic field.
It doesn't really give off any EMF though, but the magnetic is off the charts. Yeah.
It has been speculated that this added energy can be used to open a portal or help alien life forms temporarily manifest in our localized space.
There are probably life forms around us that already figured this all out a long time ago. We're the ones catching up, and they can phase in and out of our reality. We call them cryptids. And they're going to be balls of light. There are going to be symptoms around them, but they all use the same thing, whether it's Dogman or Bigfoot, or even these thunderbirds, or these different sort of creatures that people encounter. They've all figured this out evolutionary-wise over thousands of millions of years, perhaps. We're the slowpokes figuring this out technologically. It's defense contractors. We classify it. They already figured it out, and they're doing circles around us. They can show up when they want. They can disappear, scare the heck out of people.
Of course, you know Alan from, you know.
Hi, CJ. It's nice to meet you finally.
Hi, yes,
Yeah.
We also asked CJ Mulcairn, a sensitive, who had visited Bradshaw Ranch on her own and aided us in previous investigations, to join us.
So she had that experience out there. Can you just tell them briefly kind of how you felt?
Yesterday I had walked around, you know, that first we called the Adobe home, and I did it counterclockwise. And when I came around, all of a sudden I got hit with this energy, and it felt like I was on fire, like I was burning in my abdomen area.
Yep.
And then kind of got dizzy and then bent over because I got nauseated. So that's kind of.
I've definitely experienced that, especially on the dirt road part between the adobe house and the ranch house. The hair on my arms usually stands up right in that area. I used copper dowsing rods, and they went all the way 180 degrees as I walked through that part right there.
Oh, wow.
There's definitely a lot of something there that's hard to
But she survived.
She did. And willing to go back? Even better. Even better.
All right, so I guess we're going to go see the petroglyphs first?
Absolutely.
So let's...
Perfect.
Before HT had to go to work, he agreed to lead us to a group of amazing Native American rock art panels. Rock art panels not far from the ranch, but well hidden from public view.
A hot spot is an area known for millennia. So even the Native Americans living here going back thousands of years said they had regular contact with the star beings. In fact, they call them their star ancestors.
We'll go down this way. I'm pretty sure we'll find carvings of aliens and of Bigfoot just down here. So let's go check it out.
It is said that the rock art found here was made by Sonawa, ancestors of the contemporary Hopi and Zuni Native American ethnic groups. The Sonawa were a group of people who inhabited the forests, canyons, grasslands, and deserts of central and northern Arizona from about AD 600 through AD 1450. Like their contemporary Anasazi to the east, The Sonawa built Pueblo dwellings and lived a rich spiritual life, often represented in their rock art. It was a difficult and treacherous walk and climb to reach the rock cliffs that were used as a canvas to portray what the indigenous people felt important. The cliffs ran along a normally dry creek, but when we visited, the creek was filled with raging water. The first panel HT wanted to show us possibly represented a human entering a portal or vortex.
This is a human. His head and his arms are lifted up above his head. There's his head and his arms. His body has been worn away. He's getting sucked into a spiral. What were they seeing? That they could only depict it as a person getting sucked into some kind of spiral.
This kind of petroglyphs was actually carved into the red sandstone, as were these bear paws.
So up there is what I would say the most obvious carving of the Bigfoot I found out here. The thing in the middle is twice as tall as the natives that are standing around it. But they also carved a Bigfoot track next to its foot. I mean, they're obviously trying to show us a very tall being with very big feet is down here. It's also carrying a deer by the head. And the people around it don't look afraid. One of them's waving. So maybe it brought them a deer when they couldn't find food. But they definitely had an encounter with it right down here. And they marked it forever.
However, as seen here, most petroglyphs were created by engraving or scratching the rock's dark desert varnished surface to reveal the lighter layers beneath. Such was the case of the petroglyphs hidden away and only reachable on the sheer cliffs by the long lens of the camera. Hidden away on this panel is the most remarkable petroglyph. What we see is a UFO. Below the craft is what appears to be some sort of animal looking up at the craft, followed by a human in a worshiping position, and then what could be interpreted as a Bigfoot. A Bigfoot like the one photographed by HT. We decided to focus our first investigation on what both HT and CJ described as the space of high strangeness between the two ranch buildings.
Now, out at Bradshaw itself, I have experienced energy fields, for instance, like going there, and there's one area, you've probably been to it, and probably other researchers in the area probably showed you, where you walk into this area and your hair stands up on your arms. Like there's an electric charge right there. Now, there's nothing out there giving off electricity. There's no power to the area currently. Well, between the old, what's called the Homestead House, the really old, built in the 1900s or whatever house, and then the main house, which is where the bar was and all that, you know, that's that kind of multi-purpose facility. So right between them. So they're very close to, if you guys have been out there, they're very close to each other. So right between them is this area where when you walk into it, you feel this charge. And it can kind of come and go a little bit, but I've been there sometimes when it really almost felt like you were walking into a wall of electricity, like an electrical field.
CJ, along with 3 psychic friends, agreed to take us to the precise space where she felt debilitating nausea. It was a condition we would all eventually experience.
Some of these types of energy fields are just not, they're really not harmonious with our biology. And it's something to watch out for, because people who've been exposed to this without any sort of protection on a long-term basis, have noticed negative biological effects, assuming it's the same thing. It gives out, short-wave ultraviolet rays. It can produce soft X-rays and other types of radiation that potentially can disrupt your immune system, can lead to other types of negative health impacts. So I would imagine in that case, you were seeing the first indications of that it didn't make you feel particularly well to be around it.
CJ took us to the spot where she felt overwhelming nausea and once again felt a sense of unease. Would anything show up in our equipment that would indicate the presence of a portal or interdimensional opening? The first thing we did was fire up our Tesla coil in the hope of inducing the opening of a portal at what we call the space of high strangeness on the ranch.
These areas are detached from ordinary reality. And this is just what the physics shows. I mean, you mentioned Tesla coils going all the way back to Nikola Tesla. If you push that type of technology, and it doesn't have to happen in a lab, it can happen in a natural environment. Inventors like Tesla were trying to recreate this sort of resonant environment in a lab so we could have some practical benefit from it.
The first indication something extraordinary was occurring at the space of high strangeness was when Alan got inexplicably huge magnetic fluctuation readings on his tri-field meter.
So this is super unusual. I'm just standing out here in the middle of nothing. There's no power anywhere. This thing is going crazy. Can you see that?
The magnetic fluctuation phenomenon appeared to be floating above the ground, sort of like an opening in the fabric of space and time.
Is it closer to the ground?
No.
Yeah, I think
it's fluctuating a lot. It's not constant.
Yeah, this is where I got hit.
It's a wave coming. It's like a line of.
Came around here. This is where I got hit.
We decided to use our thermal to see if we could detect something that would confirm the possible portal's location.
There's a huge cold spot directly in front of us.
Really?
Oh yeah, it almost looks like eyeball shaped. Oh, whoa. There's a hot circle that's jumping position within that cold spot.
What we also filmed points to the possibility of a new physics and unlimited energy.
It's operating in a different frame of reference. And I really mean that the way Albert Einstein was talking about it. You have an area where the speed of light is literally different from our speed of light. That would be called a different frame of reference. So it's going to be operating with a sort of different temporal metric. Everything in it is going to seem shifted from our point of view. You're going to get temporal anomalies and things like this. So it's not surprising that within that area, you're going to have something that you can see, did you say a thermal camera, bouncing around in there? I mean, you're going to have these little charge. That is definitely an indication that you've got these charge clusters operating there.
We took one more look at the thermal. The anomaly was still there. Interestingly, on this 60-degree day, the temperature in the cold spot was jumping between 18 and 25 degrees Fahrenheit, well below freezing.
The thermal's locking onto it, I think. I lost it. But it's like, I would say, I'd say it's probably about right here.
Then one more unusual thing occurred at the space of high strangeness.
There's a little creature dancing around. See it?
Unlike the usual stick figures recorded by the SLS app, there was a small, white blob-like entity dancing around the Tesla coil.
You see it?
Yep.
Want to see it, Al?
I got it.
all of a sudden, the phenomenon was gone.
Try not to feel anything, Jim. I don't want anything to attach to me. I mean, Ron, I don't want anything to attach.
Bring it home with you?
Yeah, I don't want to bring anything home.
I'm not really getting that reading like we were before. You don't feel that need to run away now, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the main energy from that dissipated.
Really? How does that's amazing. That
Can't tell you the how.
I know. That's the thing.
Like many paranormal investigators and scientists have reported, portals open and close randomly. Is that what just happened here? In any case, we plan to set up our trail cam looking at the space of high strangeness to see if we could capture it opening up again. As for CJ's sensitive friends, except for Janelle Sparkman, they did not want to appear on camera and needed to process what occurred psychically at the ranch.
You know, it's the first time I've lived here for over 20 years, the first time I've been down there. And the only message I got was look for the technology, and it's very well hidden. I could not find it.
The first thing we noticed on the trail cam footage was, at night, a dark, fairly large transparent pyramid structure centered over the space of high strangeness. The pyramid was surrounded by a lighter circular phenomenon. We overlaid the daytime image with the nighttime image of the pyramid from the trail cam so we could better see how the pyramid related to the surroundings. Was the pyramid somehow a representation of an interdimensional portal? That night, the trail cam also captured a possible UAP in the same area as the flickering light we saw on our first trip. But the most amazing occurrence captured on our trail cam was this. Multiple orb-like light phenomena pouring out of the ground or the pyramid. It would be very difficult to explain these orbs as backscattered dust particles, particularly since there was no movement of the grass in the foreground. Were they alien life forms? Back in Colorado, we tested the trail cam at night and no pyramid structure appeared. One more piece to the puzzle of the space of high strangeness. That night with a small crew, we decided to do an investigation experimenting with the SLS camera. We wanted to see if we could pick up any potential alien life forms as we did 5 months earlier. If we could, we would conduct a major investigation the next night using vortex generation and detection equipment.
I think, as sure as I'm sitting here, I think one of the greatest shocks to our society as it stands is to realize that there are life forms around us that are largely invisible, but that can be picked up with specific types of equipment. And if what you're describing to me is something like that, then just as you have types of orbs, charge clusters, some people call them EVOs, exotic vacuum objects, they have this ability to go invisible. They're still in the same space you're in, but they're invisible. You can sort of detect them because they're affecting temperature and electrostatics and so forth.
Our plan was to use a green laser beam as a method of interacting with whatever showed up on the SLS. There has been a long history of using green light laser beams to interact with UAPs over Sedona and Bradshaw Ranch. We also felt that the added energy from the laser could stimulate manifestation of whatever might be present. Arriving at the space of high strangeness between the two buildings, everything felt quite normal. And the SLS camera failed to pick up anything unusual. Nevertheless, we decided to take some readings to confirm our felt experience. This event was also recorded on the trail cam, and notice the dark pyramid structure which was present on every nighttime capture.
Nothing at the moment.
Huh?
Nothing at the moment.
Interesting.
Nothing unusual on the thermal. To our surprise, immediately upon entering the Adobe building, the SLS camera picked up a non-humanoid entity.
That's weird. It's weird when it just disappears.
Yeah.
Then something amazing happened when Ron turned on the laser.
Light, right? Right here?
Yep. Look at that.
What do you see?
Two things laying on the beams. Do you see that? They're like above the beams. It's weird.
Did you record that or what?
Yeah. You're getting all this stuff. We're not messing around this time.
Alan takes a look at what he recorded.
That's cool.
Wow.
You see this? Does it pick it up?
I don't know, I'm not in the line view. I mean, I can see it, but it doesn't. Oh.
Then, we get the interaction with the entity that we were hoping for.
Oh, yeah.
It's reaching for it.
Is it?
I didn't record that.
What's that? What should?
Then the entity reaches for the laser beam again.
All right, put the light over right on the post in the middle. Keep it there. I lost it.
Go away?
Yeah.
Is it gone?
Yeah.
Didn't like it, huh?
Well, it looked like it reached for it and then it disappeared.
Before moving on to the ranch house, we decided to set up our paranormal detecting equipment, including the Tesla coil.
Man, the infrared that Connect shoots at is very strange looking.
It's like it's like grid. It's not just a...
Yeah, just a bunch of little dots.
That thing's pretty powerful. It's got a pretty good range.
The Tesla coil?
Yeah. You see how far I had to get that away?
Yeah.
Would the added magnetic field and plasma energy from the coil stimulate activity? In the past, we have left our equipment and came back to some interesting phenomena. Entering the ranch house, we were greeted by a mysterious knock.
Whoa. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
It was just like a perfect knock.
I heard it.
After passing some creepy graffiti, to our surprise, another or perhaps the same non-humanoid entity showed up on the SLS camera.
What the world is that? How does that just disappear?
More graffiti. Ron turned on his laser to see if it would cause an alien life form to appear on the SLS camera.
You don't see this, do you?
Should be able to.
No?
Suddenly, two very active non-humanoid life forms. Life forms Alan apparently did not seem to see.
I should be able to, because I can see that. Yeah, that is interesting.
They were followed by one more non-humanoid life form rapidly changing shape.
Oh, I can kind of see it.
Here's the thing
you triggered something. Oh, whoa.
Here it is slowed down. Notice how it changes shape and disappears. Unlike the previous visit to the ranch, all the life forms that appeared on the SLS camera this time were non-humanoid. Back in the Adobe building, nothing paranormal was happening, just one light phenomenon.
See my red full reflection on my headlamp in the window.
Oh, damn. Looks like things are done, huh?
No, I don't think we opened it up yet.
As Colonel John Alexander always says, they are aware of us, and most importantly, we are not in control. In other words, by definition, alien life forms are not confined by our concepts of space and time.
When they say there's no evidence, and you hear that frequently, we'll come to some of that, then I think the physical evidence is now certainly just overwhelming. David Lovegrove,
Colonel John Alexander is perhaps the world's most experienced paranormal investigator, including UAPs, psychic phenomena, and paranormal hotspots such as Skinwalker and Bradshaw Ranches.
There have been interactions between humans, sentient, non-humans, throughout the entirety of human history in all cultures and whatnot. Now, if you're talking about what I was addressing, say, at the ranch, when I call it an it, and that's just because I have no way to conceptualize what an it might be, and I call this precognitive sentient phenomena. And this is as I said, it was precognitive. It meant that whatever this consciousness was knew how we would respond scientifically and in an investigative standpoint before the event ever occurred. And it was certainly intelligent and sentient, knew what was going on.
In any case, we came away encouraged by the filming of an interdimensional portal and the interaction with possible alien life forms. Encouraged that the experiments we had planned for the next day would provide some answers to the mystery of Bradshaw Ranch.
Welcome back, gentlemen.
We made it. You got somebody here, huh?
We do indeed. We have the person here.
When we arrived the next day, HT and electrical engineering genius Benjamin Lonetree were waiting for us. Benjamin is the world's expert on Sedona vortexes. Sedona vortexes are thought to be swirling centers of energy that are conducive to healing, meditation, and self-exploration. Places where the Earth seems especially alive with energy.
When people in Sedona talk about vortex, it's real. And the vortexes emit a very intense, spiraling like a tornado field of magnetic energy. And I've actually recorded that magnetic field spinning.
Ben believes the creation of Sedona's vortices, or portals, are a product of the geology.
If you look at all the red rock, that's Fe2O3, iron oxide. Iron oxide is inductive electronically, and then you have the quartz, which is buried underneath here. It's a huge layer of it. So here you have a combination of the quartz emitting electricity, electrical energy, and you have the red iron oxide adding inductance to it. This whole area is like a big radio transmitter or radio receiver.
CJ?
Hi, pleasure. Oh, I got a friend, CJ.
Oh, yeah.
CJ joined our team for the nighttime investigation, an investigation using Ben's specially designed scientific equipment. While Ben set up and tested his equipment in the adobe house, HT wanted to show Alan a number of very strange items on the former working part of the ranch, a working part that included many now abandoned structures from the days when Bradshaw was a movie set and a working ranch.
It's really hard to take in everything going on the ground, everything going on the sky, and so it's definitely a big benefit when I get to have you guys out here with me and we get to cover some ground and do it a little more thoroughly. So lights in the sky, lights on the ground, and footprints. A little bit of everything here.
The first out-of-place anomaly HT pointed out was some sophisticated sensing equipment.
Oh, you can see the sensor on the tree with the tinfoil around it.
What is that?
I haven't figured out. There's three. They're pointing here. Some kind of little sensor with tinfoil covering it. They're hard-lined to a power management utility box, and that's hard-lined over to a solar panel. We can go over and look later. Guess what? It's really bizarre.
Do you remember that from last time?
Yeah, I can see the hard line going through the solar.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I can see the hard line on the ground.
Yeah.
Somebody put time and money into that, whatever it is. And right there was a trail cam pointing up at the sky.
Really?
Who does that? Who sets their trail cam pointing at the sky? And there's another device that looks like an accordion, and we weren't sure what it was, so we sent some pictures to our friends in the military. And one of them came back and said, oh yeah, that's the most expensive piece of equipment we have that can measure movement on the ground. He said, you'll be able to tell when a mouse is walking around with that sensor out there. So there's somebody out here trying to record data of movement on the ground.
With advanced equipment.
With advanced equipment, yeah.
What's under there? Camera?
It's a sensor.
And since the ranch was purchased by the Energy Department of the U.S. government in 2003, there are clear indications that there are people and institutions that know about and want the technology occurring on Bradshaw Ranch.
That's a sensor pointed.
It's been there a while.
At the old west part of town.
Definitely been there.
And there are three of them on these three trees. They all triangulate down to the old west part. They're all hard lined in. And there's a solar panel to power them all.
Here's the solar panel that powered the sensors.
Been here at least 6 months.
You mean that's it?
I don't think...
It wasn't here when you first came out here?
No.
So this is definitely newer.
Or within the last year.
Get out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why just this one area?
And why are they pointing it at the old west part of town?
Oh, this makes my head hurt.
Right?
What? just take away all the supernatural. Like, what could they possibly be doing scientifically?
It has to be it has to be the paranormal related. I can't imagine what this setup would be used for with the sensors pointing where they're pointing.
But is this government? It doesn't look government.
It doesn't look government. Looks like somebody knew what they were doing.
Well, yeah. And they had PVC pipe. I mean, they built this,
brought all this out here.
They built this to last.
Yeah, and they had to truck it all out here.
That's bizarre.
That accordion is
More technology.
Ground movement. The military guy told us that thing there could tell if there was a mouse walking on the ground. And then that box, I opened up that box and I showed it to Ben. I was wondering if that was a computer or power management. He said it's power management.
HT headed for his gifting site. A gifting site is a place where the Bigfoot researcher hopes through the exchange of objects can make contact or interact with the Bigfoot or anything paranormal. HT's gifting site is a small building on a remote part of the ranch.
Thank you.
Still there. So, did you guys happen to push the buttons?
No.
I'm going to show you what these are.
No. We didn't touch anything.
A friend of mine sent me a link to these. These are made for pets. You hold the button down for 5 seconds and you can record your voice, and then you leave it for your pet, right? And your pet can hear your voice. So I brought them out here hoping something would record a message back to me. I recorded a little message and I left them out here. I said, hold it for 5 seconds. And the next day I came back and they both have recordings on them. What?
What?
Yeah.
Wait.
Now we slowed it down. That's why the door closed. We slowed it down. I had Ben put it on his computer and we slowed this down. And it sounds like somebody saying ADC, like a Native American word.
I hear you.
Yeah.
ADC.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other one?
I think what ate the grapes leaned on this one while it was eating. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
You just left it?
Mm-hmm.
Here is the voice slowed down. Lastly, some bizarre tracks.
Yeah, but what about these track lines right here?
Yeah?
These are big impressions. These are left-right, aren't they? These look really weird to me, man. That's something pushing the dirt down again. And look at the, here we go. We actually got a piece of it. I don't know if that's the back. That could be the heel of it right there. But once again, that's 8 inches. These are the same tracks we just saw over there.
Yeah.
These are the exact same creature. But look at through here. I mean, it's a bit muddied up because it's old, but here's one here. Even maybe next to it, like it was standing right here. And you can see them in the dirt.
Yep.
That's a long trackway.
Yeah.
We got to get back.
As evening settled in, Benjamin set up his equipment in the main room of the ranch house in the hope of detecting any anomalous energy or life forms. The heart of Benjamin's system is a specially built magnetometer that puts out a magnetic field that can detect both electromagnetic and magnetic energy.
Now I'm hooking these sensing equipment up. What we have is the sensor, the electronics, that goes to a data acquisition module to the computer, and what the data acquisition does is convert the electrical signal coming out of the electronics, converts it into data that the computer can use and work with. What a magnetometer does is it measures anything emitting electromagnetic energy in the area. And it's so sensitive when you have it set up and running. If you walk within 20 feet of it, it'll detect your body because we emit a very weak electromagnetic field. I originally built that to measure and observe Sedona's vortex energy. And I found some real excellent hotspots up there.
As darkness settles, over 25 feet from the magnetometer, Alan fires up the Tesla coil.
So anything that comes within 10 to 15 feet of the sensing coil is going to be detected and recorded. So hopefully we'll get someone or something to show up.
As we learn later, as Ben was struggling to calibrate his system, CJ captured on her SLS app this incredible sequence of events. A non-humanoid alien life form appears above Ben and his computer. Here we can see the entity touching the Tesla coil. The theory is it is using the energy from the coil to help it materialize. Now, it touches Ben's computer. The next image shows it beginning to take on a humanoid form and is connected to both the Tesla coil and the computer. Finally, it engages the Tesla coil one more time. Shortly after this interaction, Alan catches on his SLS camera a now full humanoid entity floating above Ben, working on his computer.
There's a creature dancing above you, Ben.
As Ben completes his calibration, the entity, now fully humanoid in form, sits on a chair in front of his equipment. Ron brings out his green light laser and points it below the entity's foot. Watch as the entity appears to look and then kick at it. Watch the head move to look down at the laser. Here comes the kick. Alan showed the crew what he had just recorded and then turned his SLS camera on an adjacent chair that HT had just sat on.
Your platform is moving up and down now. It's bouncing. I'm slightly bouncing up and down right now.
To everyone's surprise, the entity emerged out of HT and flew up to the ceiling and disappeared. It was as if the entity needed a lot of energy to materialize briefly from our technology in a humanoid form. And then the pattern repeated itself when the entity again emerged out of HT and disappeared. However, the entity reappeared in the original chair and HT went and sat on it. But this time it was gone for good. Ben left his system running while we went outside to sit on a porch to discuss and process what we had just experienced.
That worked out awesome.
Once again, the data reflected what we were physically doing, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
it perfectly coincides. What you guys were doing and what he saw on the camera and what the computer was doing, recording.
Oh, I'm up hot. I'm up hot all the way.
As if on cue, a Black Hawk helicopter showed up. Was it surveilling us? Cued by the events we just experienced? Or just a meaningless coincidence?
Get it, Joe? I mean, as much as you can get a couple of lights.
There's an opening, not a doubt in my mind.
Speaking of portals, the very last image on the trail cam was this. The only other incident of the mysterious light phenomenon, this time going back into the possible Presidio portal. Two weeks later, Ben sent us the graphic readout from his computer along with his annotation. The first was when he set up and tested his equipment in the adobe house.
There's the building, the equipment's inside. Here is the chart I recorded. Now, as you can see, the horizontal line of activity, that's all magnetic energy. Now, let's go through this fairly quick. And you can see it's pretty stable. Here's a little bit of a magnetic activity going on here. And it continues. Here's a little more magnetic activity. And I attribute this activity to being geological in nature. In other words, what my equipment is recording is just magnetic energy given off from beneath the ranch.
Remember those plasma orbs HD photographed?
Now here's two nice positive going spikes. I'll enhance them a little bit. Nice little spikes. These are magnetic surges, or these are positively charged ions discharging from the ground beneath the ranch. I do not believe these are not entities. This is natural geological earth energy being emitted from the ground. And if these are positively charged ions, that's a good thing, because three things create plasma. And we've seen a lot of what we believe are plasma orbs at the ranch. Now, plasma is either created by intense electrical activity, intense heat, intense current flow, or positively charged ions. So I took the equipment from the original homestead and moved it inside of Bob and Linda Bradshaw's home. So let's see what was going on inside of the house magnetically. Now, here is where I first set up the computer, and I'm trying to calibrate it. In other words, I'm trying to get a real nice horizontal line centered in the chart. So the activity you see here is partially me, because I'm right there near the computer and the sensor, and part of it is something interfering with me.
Here again is what we captured on the SLS as the entity appears to be working against Ben.
Now here I got the system calibrated and I walked away. And as you can see, the magnetic energy is all over the place. Here are some intense magnetic surges. And I attribute these to that entity or being that was trying to prevent me from recording the magnetic energy in the house. And this just goes on and on and on like this.
This is the entity doing this. I'm standing 35 feet away. The house has absolutely no power to it. It was disconnected years ago. So these fluctuations in magnetic energy, which really get intense, are a result of that entity or being.
This occurred as the entity engaged us. When it was done interacting with us, this happened on the graph.
The being goes back by my equipment and you can see its signature. It has positive going magnetic energy and negative going. So let's keep going. And this is just more and more of that being, that entity being over there. Now I have 4 more positively going discharges. I call them sudden magnetic impulse, or they could be positively charged ions, and here's more of it. And let's go a little more. And you can see I keep getting a lot of them. Here it looks, things are pretty stabilized again. Everything is centralized horizontally. So the being is not messing with it at this time. But now you can see it's still moving around, getting a little bit closer. There's more activity, and here's another positively going thing. I do not think these positive going discharges, sudden magnetic impulses, are related to the entity. This is something going on at that spot, and I believe they're related to whatever energy is opening the door or creating the portal for the entity or being to come through. All right, now this wavy stuff again, that's all entity. That's the entity back at my computer. It does not like me doing what I'm doing. And you can see here it gets pretty nuts. But now if you go to the end, and we're coming up to the end, bam. Okay, you can see these positively charged going spikes, then one big final surge, and at that point is when the computer completely shut off. And the only way to do that is to tell it to shut down or pull the battery out. So the being itself found a way to intentionally turn the computer off.
What has our investigation revealed? Clearly, Bradshaw Ranch is one of the world's greatest places of high strangeness. But what does that mean? Remember, one of our goals for this investigation was to see if we could shed light on one of the biggest questions in paranormal research. Are the entities, beings, creatures, UAPs, and other anomalous phenomena interdimensional, coming from another reality? The evidence we encountered strongly suggests we did indeed encounter a portal, a place of merging of another reality with our own at the space of high strangeness in front of the adobe house. The evidence also suggests for the charge cluster we filmed in our thermal has the ability to open a gateway for entities to materialize as crafts, a creature like Bigfoot, or the alien life form that interacted with technology on our last investigation in the ranch house. These phenomena point to an unknown physics to us that allows it to occupy and manifest in multiple realities, a different kind of physics and technology that could transform the world as we know it. In other words, whatever is present at the ranch is capable of manipulating matter and energy in a way that science is just beginning to recognize.